news. Well, in case you were unaware, there is a certain amount of entertainment and shows and spectaculars and productions that have not been able to proceed at Walt Disney World theme parks due to the fact that there is a global pandemic going on. And the Actors Equity Union, a major entertainment union that represents a huge swath of performers at Walt Disney World, they have been butting heads quite often with the Walt Disney Company over how to safely bring the performers back to their production homes, their show homes. And so if you go to the parks at the moment, you will often find that many of the productions, many of the shows are not available. And in a place like Disney's Hollywood Studios, which is very show heavy, which we've talked about here before, Hollywood Studios is a place that has, the majority of like indoor theaters as attractions. And there are so few that are even operating at the moment because these unions can't agree on how to bring back these performers and these cast members. What you're about to see is an ad crafted by the Actors Equity Union, and it plays off of a commercial that Disney ran as Walt Disney World was returning to, its sort of former glory, trying to come back via the pandemic, and doing so with an ad that they ultimately, Disney World ended up pulling because some people found it insensitive, some people found it a little creepy. Essentially what you're seeing are a lot of cast members wearing masks, all saying welcome home. The Actors Equity Union, again, still butting heads with Disney, they decided to use that ad to their advantage and warp it a little bit. Take a look.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home, everyone! Go, citizens!
Is a quote that came from the Actors Equity Union and somebody that represents it saying that if Disneyland had postponed, it is unclear how Walt Disney World can responsibly move toward reopening when coronavirus cases are much worse in Florida. And this was, going into, July's reopening of Walt Disney World. This is interesting because, Tyler, Katrina, we did see the return of some shows in different capacities, and mainly they were ones that were run by frontline cast members. So, your 3D type experiences, 4D type experiences with like Mickey's PhilharMagic at Magic Kingdom. Over at Hollywood Studios, they brought back the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy, mainly because that's all audio animatronic driven and run by frontline cast members. But what you aren't seeing are those stage show productions, those big spectaculars. You go to Animal Kingdom, Festival of the Lion King is a hallmark experience for people's visit. You go over to Finding Nemo the Musical in that same park, a hallmark of the experience. What do you make, Katrina, of the Actors Equity Union using all of this to throw back at Disney and say, you're not doing enough?
That's hard to say. I mean, again, I don't feel like I look at these performers like in the parades. I was telling Tyler, like they're so close to one another. I don't even think it's safe for them to have these productions yet. And for them to do Lightning McQueen, it's easy peasy because, the main character is an animatronic car. So There's no chance of them having an issue with getting COVID or anything, but except for like the frontline cast that are just pretty much telling you how to enter and exit and then you space people out. But I do get worried for like the main actors that have to do stage shows because there's so many, and how are they supposed to keep socially distanced from one another unless being put in a bubble for a couple weeks, and then they do a couple shows and then they get to be 2-week quarantine or something. That's like the only thing I think is like safe.
And we did see that they're asking, the Actors Equity Union is asking for face masks for all those performers. So, your face characters too, they're asking for that across the board. Tyler, that video was very creepy. That video was super intense and obviously made to, make people feel uncomfortable. What'd you think?
I mean, I think they went way too corny with it, in my opinion. I mean, it's like, kind of cringy in my mind, because I get where they're coming from, and while I'm more with them than I am with Disney, but the way that they presented themselves was just kind of like over the top, and so it kind of took away some of the seriousness from the situation to me. We were talking about this on the way over here, actually, but like, you know, I think all the performers need to be wearing masks, even the face characters. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to me that they're not. And if you would imagine thinking about all the singing that some of these performers are going to be doing, running around the stage, I mean, everybody's going to be breathing hard and belting out their lungs and all those things. And they're the ones that are going to have to be standing close to one another at certain times, and they're not going to wear masks on. It's kind of the same thing as like going to a gym, right, and not wearing a mask. I mean, so I just feel like, to me, I get it. I'm with this video, but they presented it in such a poor way that it's like kind of hurting their cause, I think.
Sure. Garrett, you were part of entertainment at Walt Disney World for a period of time. One, do you feel like enough has been done from what you've seen for the performers, for the entertainment cast members at Walt Disney World to be protected in this sort of crazy health pandemic? And then on top of that, what do you think of the tactic used by the Actors Equity Union?
All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to start with the second question first. So the scare tactic that they went with, it kind of seems juvenile, if you can put it that way. Like, you're just going to take what Disney did and you're just going to warp it a little bit into some 1984 like scare thing where it's like where it just gets darker and darker and darker. And I get it. You're trying to scare people, trying to get people to do stuff, but they could have gone about it in such a different way. They could have easily, I don't know, they could have filmed something more. They could have used, like, you want your performers back? You want to see these stage shows going on? Well, then they need to wear a mask or something. So I'm not a big fan of the commercial. Like, it works to a certain degree, but I don't think who's this going out to? Is this just sort of hitting Disney, or is this just trying to get people to petition Disney? That's the bigger question. But as for Disney going towards things, Disney does take safety to an extreme, and there's probably going to be one area where Tyler and I probably disagree. But I think Disney is doing a lot to it, and I can only imagine certain roles in entertainment wearing face masks on top of everything else, and how hot that's going to be. For example, like, you've got some performers that, you know, wear heavy costumes and may or may not have their face covered. Imagine wearing a face mask on top of that. You're going to have heat exhaustion, because it gets hot moving out there, and it can be quite challenging. But as for cleaning, they disinfect and clean every costume down every single night, and there are multiple costumes out there, whether it's for the dancers and stuff. There's not just one for so they have like 50 lined up, so they're deep cleaning stuff. But what they're doing with the characters and keeping them distance and waving at everything, it all comes down to the intellectual property that Disney has, where in the movie the character doesn't wear a mask because the character isn't from this world, and Disney is trying to keep it with the storyline. And so that's where it gets kind of difficult, where it's like, you want to keep the characters real for the guests, but at the same time you want to have safety for everyone. So there's no way of winning it. Ultimately, Disney's going to call a shot because they're the big man on campus. It's their money, it's their IP, and if they don't want someone to perform, don't worry, they have a line out the door with other people. So
that's honestly horrible, Garrett, to say, oh, if you don't want to do that, then there's a line of people that want to be here. I think that's a horrible thing to say. You used to be friends. You used to be friends with Goofy and other characters like that. Are you telling me that you think this little 2-ply face mask is going to be hotter for people than wearing that Goofy helmet or whatever? I mean, I just don't see how that computes.
Look, those costumes can get up to be 120 plus on a hot day in there, and I ultimately, like, for me, if I was there, listen, if some people, they need jobs, they're going to work it, and it sucks. Like, for me, I wear a face mask whenever I go out into public, just because that's the thing to do. But I can't make a call for Disney. But like, when you're in the costume and everything, I don't see wearing a face mask as necessary, just because of how much stuff. But like, when they're changing everything, that's when one should be put on. But ultimately, it comes down to Disney. Like, Disney calls the shots, and you're going to do what they're going to tell you to do, because they have the iron fists.
Well, okay, and I think that's horrible. I really think that's horrible to to say like, oh, we're not going to care about your health, and if you have a problem with it, then get lost. I really think that's a horrible thing for a company to do, and I don't care if it's Disney or not. That doesn't sound very magical to me. I just think that's a really bad way to go about running any type of business if that's really what it's going to be like.
I mean, even at Universal, they have their characters in masks. They have like not Scooby Doo because he's
Their
a dog,
characters
but he
don't
has a
even
mask on the
count as
inside.
characters.
They're what?
Their characters don't even count as characters. They're just people wearing Halloween costumes.
What? That's rude.
I also think
How
this is
dare you. I love Daphne.
this is a perfect time to show kids how important it is to wear these masks and things like that, and who's better to teach kids these things than their heroes, the princesses, all these different characters that are out there in Disney, who can teach kids this is what's important right now, but they're going to worry more about their fake story than worry about people's health. I just think that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a contentious issue, and I know that the cast members of the Walt Disney World Resort are not necessarily feeling all that confident as well. But then on the flip side, you have a group that is feeling like it's time to go back to work, that does feel like Disney is doing enough. So on the flip side of this argument, you do have a segment of a cast member population that feels like it is time to return, and that they do feel safe. And what, if you are watching, you are seeing right now is a video that they made where they are all performers from the Walt Disney World Resort saying how Disney makes them feel. And you see everything from lucky to joyful to fortunate, and then at the end you see them all come together and say that they do feel safe going back to work. It's definitely something that we know is important to find that balance. Obviously, as companies try and come back online during this really awful pandemic, to try and decide how to best do this is a struggle, and doing it safely when especially so much of what we hear tends to change from week to week and month to month as to how to combat this. And now we're hearing, oh, well, maybe everybody should wear face shields on top of it. Things just continue to pan out and change and are very fluid. Certainly Disney would put themselves in a better position if they could be fluid in response, and maybe if they worked with the Actors Equity Union in this capacity, might be able to get shows back in action if they just gave a little bit on the mask front. But it's something that's interesting to know that there's a segment of the cast member population that has now come out saying we are ready. In fact, there is a message from these cast members to the public, and they say the following: "This video represents those of us who feel safe to go back to work under the safety protocols laid out by Disney for the stages that were called back. Our original intention was to send it to Disney leadership as well as AEA to convey our personal feelings. It was not meant for the public, although the thought of sharing it as a celebration when we were finally able to go back to work was a possibility we spoke about. We are aware that not all members agree with us, and we don't claim to speak for everyone, but the public and aggressive social media action taken by AEA does not reflect all of its represented members, and those cast members were not consulted prior to them being carried out. We now feel that we deserve to have our voices heard as well." End quote. Hashtag "They go low, we go high." Hashtag "Bring back the magic." Hashtag "Disney makes me feel." Hashtag "Safe." Long-winded way of saying that they are ready to get back on stage. So it's interesting to hear that there's a segment of the cast member population that is totally cool with the way Disney is doing things now. And I think you are seeing a representation, a reflection, I should say, of also what is happening in society, where you got a group of people that are saying, yeah, put me back to work. I'm fine with it. I feel confident that everything's being done to protect me. And then you have a group saying, not enough. Interestingly enough, on top of that, Disney just this week took one of their stage shows and modified it to bring it back, even if they didn't necessarily have the performers that they needed. Disney Junior Live on Stage has now been modified and returned to Disney's Hollywood studios as one of those things that you can now do with your kid. It's socially distanced, of course, but definitely one of those really popular experiences for families to go and enjoy. It is back in a socially distanced way now with like a DJ playing some hits and Mickey and Minnie coming out and doing some dancing with some other characters. So obviously modified from the original storyline that they had where the performers would come out and there was a whole sort of arc to this. I think, Tyler, that we might see a little bit more of this happen if the Actors Equity Union does not come to terms and these performers don't come back to work.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. For me, this video was another kind of cheesy video, in my opinion, where I understand where they're coming from, but I feel like there are better ways to go about it than kind of make a little video about kind of promoting yourself in a way. I don't know. It seemed kind of weird to me. But here's my thing with this video is, what were there, maybe like 30 people in it or something? How many entertainers do you think that Disney employs? So this seems to me to be a very small part of the people that actually feel comfortable going back to work. And you know, there's probably more people out there that do feel comfortable, but there's probably a lot that don't feel comfortable. So I just think, you know, we shouldn't be pushing each other to do things that others aren't going to be comfortable doing, right? I feel like right now we need to be supporting each other, and it makes me a little bit angry to see this small group of people say like, no, we're ready to go back to work. Disney's doing perfect.
And let's certainly not minimize what we don't know. So,
Right.
you know, to say it's a small segment, we don't know how many
I
people
don't.
really
You're right.
feel
I
that
don't.
way.
You're right. I don't know, but again, I'm just saying, like, from this video, it's like 30 people, something like that. It just seems like there's a lot more people out there that might have a different opinion. So.
And the Actors Equity Union, you know, just sort of copy and pasting a Disney ad with, you know, no faces, no human beings coming forth to come out on that advertisement for them. That might be performers, that might be people who legitimately feel this way. Kind of leaves it up in the air as to, well, how many people within the union, you know, maybe if they put it to a vote, it would be interesting to see how many people are ready to go back to work and feel fine.
Yeah.
How many people aren't.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.